So I got this message from Dr. John Braccio yesterday. Usually he'll message me, let me know, hey, what do you say we talk about this? And I shared it with my wife, the big hair. What to know when you're with a sociopath or a psychopath. And I said, I don't know where Doc's going with this. We're going to find this one out. She said, well, if you don't think you're with a psychopath, maybe you are the psychopath. Oh, that's nice. That's good to know. Dr. John Braccio, Regional Psychological Services of East Lansing. Doc, good morning.
Well, good morning to you. We've talked in the past a bit, and really the sociopath or psychopath, really the same name, of course, same person. That really, they're generally, going to bring a lot of chaos to your life. Okay, they're going to be gaslighting and trying to convince you what you know is not true. They're going to be using guilt, to make you perform in a certain way. They'll not respect boundaries. They'll try to control all aspects of your life as much as possible. The charm that they initially present quickly wears off unless you fall into their web and become the controlled person they desire. Now, with all of that said, the sociopath never ceases to fascinate people. Mike, the fact that most people have some sense of right or wrong, even if they don't always do the right thing, makes it hard for them to believe that there really are people totally devoid of empathy and caring for other human beings. People of goodwill are amazed when discovering someone they are with or know is a sociopath. They are amazed how persuasive and manipulative they can be to get what they desire. It amazes people how the cunning, the sociopath is often so successful when they're able to control their behaviors so they don't get into trouble, okay? But they're able to manipulate others for what they desire. Now, the thing here, the skills, what do these folks use? Well, they use lying, deceit, charm, compliments, and manipulation to undermine the good instincts of people who trust them, want to have faith in them. And if one understands that the sociopath is devoid of conscience, will use any psychological method possible to get what they desire, then one really is psychologically able to see through the manipulation of the sociopath and not be manipulated into doing things that really are not in their best interest. Now, this is often very hard to do because the skills of the talented sociopath could be amazingly effective. Now, a good thing, fortunately, percentages of these highly skilled sociopaths are not high. And less skilled ones are often seen as very shallow, and when lacking self-control, really can have problems with the law and not successful in life. Now, this teaches them no lessons because they will continue being a sociopath. Now, the best way to avoid being manipulated by a successful sociopath is to judge people by their behaviors and not words. You avoid intense short-term commitments that they try to push you into. Setting clear boundaries in relationships, knowing what your core beliefs are and not compromising on them, being very skeptical of the person who seems too good to be true, aware of the person who convincingly portrays self as a victim in life is often looking for you to be their savior. Watch out. Determine the kinds of relationships that the person has with other persons, and getting out of a relationship where chaos is occurring in your life because of the sociopath, just chaos all over. And listen to the advice of respected friends and family who can give you advice on when to be aware of the risk that you may be with a sociopath. So these are really things to be aware of. The sociopath is a fascinating person because most people really care, Mike. They have feelings, even if they don't always behave appropriately, and they can be a little selfish at times, even a little narcissistic. But the sociopath is just a manipulative person with no sense of right or wrong, and they just go through life getting what they can. Their needs are more, so they take more. How does that sound? A real negative kind of a person.
Yeah.
So really, you really have to beware of these people and not fall into their web.
So someone listening to this right now going, by golly, maybe I'm the sociopath. Can you cure yourself? I mean, what do you do if you think, hey, maybe I'm a sociopath? Now we're scaring people.
Generally sociopaths are so devoid of right and wrong that They often know. They know their needs. They know what they want, and they're manipulative, and they enjoy controlling events and controlling people. And prognosis is not good for any character disorder, but particularly persons that have these traits, Mike. So they're just people to stay away from. Just
run away, run fast.
Fall under them. We stereotypically sometimes think of the murdering psychopath.
Right.
The Bill Bundy. Well, most, unless a person has a compulsion to kill or do something like that, they're not going to. That's not how they function. They just find people that are going to be in their web, that they're controlled, that they're gaslighted. They're convinced that, they convince the person, you don't know what you're doing, whatever it might be. They lure them in, like you're beautiful, you're wonderful, you're handsome, you're clever, you're witty, you're exactly what I want and need. Just like the person mom said or dad said I ought to be with, and they can charm the person. And of course, if they're in work, if they're in politics, it'd be the same type thing. But as far as the living the life, beware of the person who's too good to be true. And they bring chaos, because you get all these doubts, and they're in there and they're convincing you what you know is right. They will convince you is wrong. They'll just start, controlling you, take advantage of you. And we know people like this. And if you're with one of them, it can be a very, very difficult life, because they often will stay because they just want to manipulate and control. And they find the right person, unfortunately, and that's what they do. Be aware. These are people to stay away from.
Scaring me this morning, guy. Holy cow, man. Dr. John Braccio, drjohnb.com on the web, Regional Psychological Services of East Lansing. Yeah, take this into heart, people. And if you don't have a psychopath in your life, maybe you're the guy. I don't know, or the lady, or whatever. Hey, Doc, thanks a lot. We appreciate it. Have a marvelous week,
buddy. Always a pleasure, buddy. Good talking to you. Bye-bye.
See you later. 1320 WILS.